Salesforce and Trailhead tutorial with myself, Jonathan Fox, and today what we're going to look at doing is creating a really basic flow. So what we're going to aim to achieve is create a flow which will produce a contact record, and we're going to place it behind a button, and we're only going to capture bare bones of the details, but your imagination can run off with you and you can see how it can adapt and evolve into such a bigger flow. So let's start off by going to setup, and we'll type in here, we'll type in the quick find, we'll type flow, and we'll go ahead and click on flow. So straight away, new thing, click new flow. Once it loads, you are given two options at the moment: screen flow, auto launch flow. Summer 20s release is only around the corner, and there will be other options available here, really nice options as well, such as flow triggers. However, today we're going to have a look at screen flow. So we'll go ahead and create a screen flow. As you can see, we've got our start node here, connects to something, whatever we want it to connect to. We've got our elements down here. We've got screen, action, subflow. They're really self-explanatory. A screen is, as it sounds, it's a screen that you can interact with. Action is something that it can do outside of the flow, such as interacting with Apex, submitting for approval, posting to Chatter. There's lots and lots and lots, and just by quickly having a look here, you can see there are lots. And of course, you can add your own. Subflow is calling a flow within a flow. And then we have our logic, so assignments, decisions, and loops. Really useful for taking details that are user inputs, or you take the details pulled from a record on in your database, and you can decide what to do with it. You can iterate over it and change it. And then here we've got our data elements, so creating, updating, getting and deleting records. So to start with, what we're going to do is we need a screen, and we're going to call this screen create a contact. We have some other options here. We can add a description for the screen. We can have a look at showing the header and showing the footer. We have our control navigation, so we can add or remove the next/finish depending on if you're on the last screen or not. Previous and pause. Pause in a screen flow is really cool. What you can do is you can click pause, which is really useful. Say if you're a service agent and you want to pause your flow halfway through collecting information, maybe from a customer. This is like your transcript, your guide, and you need to go away, find something out first, and then resume. Maybe you have an option to choose for the customer, but they don't know the answer, you don't know the answer, you need to pause it and go away. What we're going to add here is we're going to grab a text. So as you can see here, you've got lots of different inputs, and they're actually a few extra than what you'd expect to see within Salesforce from the native UI. So for example, what I mean by that is you can just display an image and display text. You can add a toggle, and I'll show you a toggle being, we can't display it straight away, a little button that toggles left and right, a slider, as in a sliding scale slider, password. There's all sorts you can do here, which is really, really cool. We're going to go ahead and grab text, drag and drop onto the page. We're going to call this, that's not text. Going to grab text, drag and drop onto the page, and we're going to type in first name. We're going to require it. We always want them to capture the first name in this circumstance. Now, the default value, we don't have a default value. That's absolutely fine. You could put something in there like customer's first name. It's just something that sits there. It's also something that if they do miss that out, there's actually some data there. Then you can give them some help text. You could put something in here, maybe something like if it's a number, throw an error because someone's name isn't likely to have a number in it. And setting the component visibility. This is really cool. This one is obviously going to be always visible, but if we had a checkbox, for example, underneath, and it was update of address, if you tick it, you could then visually show an address box underneath. That's a really cool idea of a way to use the visibility. We're going to add text, we're going to add surname. There we go, and I'll mark it as required. So just quickly going back, we'll have a look at the contact record. What it's really useful to do is just go ahead and click new. Make sure you haven't missed anything off in terms of required fields. Now, on a contact, it's really straightforward. We only have last name, which is a required field. However, if you had made some other fields required, you need to make sure that they are captured here, because if you don't capture them and you don't put a value on them, your flow is going to fail. And then we'll click done. So when you start the flow, you want it to display the screen. What we will do next, always make sure your lines are lined up perfectly. It makes things a lot nicer to look at. What we're going to do next is create a record. So we're going to drag the create a record onto the screen. What we need to go ahead and do now is add a label. And we're adding a label to this element. It's not necessarily going to be visible to the user on the UI, but it keeps our flow nice and neat. So it's going to be create contact, because it's just a create record element. So at least we're knowing now which type of object we're going to create. You can describe it if you really want to. And here we're going to decide how many records we're going to create. Because it's a screen flow, we know that they can only enter one first name, one last name. We know that they can only really create one record from this. So we're going to do one. And we're going to use separate resources and literal values. And I'll show you why. Because what we're going to do here is type contact, choose contact, and then we're going to choose which one maps to which. So first name, and we've got the screen component, we've got first name. Add another field, last name. Now I've named it surname, and we're going to click done. We're going to drag that to that, because from creating the details in the screen, we're going to create a contact record, and we're going to go ahead and click save. So what we've done now is we've created the contact flow, we've saved it, and we need to go ahead and activate it. What we're going to do is just give it a run and see if it works and see how it looks. Here we go. So we've got first name and last name. Click next, and there we go. No error, so that's a good sign. Now what we can do is we can click debug, which will do something very similar. We will see it, but we get the debug details down the side here. Shows who started the flow. So we'll add a different name in now. We'll click next, and what we can see is that the record here has resulted in a created record. So it works, and that's great. Now, how do we use it? What we can go ahead and do is go to the case object, contact object, not contract, contact. Okay, so what we want to go and do now is click create new action. Rather than create record here, we're going to click flow, and automatically there is only one flow, so it's chosen the flow for me. You can choose a standard label type if you want, and I'm going to call this create contact flow. Go ahead and click save. Now you need to make sure that that is visible. So instead of coming out of contact, go ahead back onto contact, your page layouts. We're using the contact layout here, so we'll go for that one. And if we look at actions. And we have a look here, create contact flow. Drag and drop that onto our page layout. Go ahead and click save. Now let's go into contacts. And as you can see there, the two that I created with the ScreenFlow when I was testing it. Now you can see create contact flow is up there. And look at that, our ScreenFlow. This is now what the flow would look like. Obviously you can place that button on an opportunity or an account if you wanted to quickly create a contact. Thinking about that option, you would then maybe want to pull in the account's record ID that you're currently on and automatically look it up to and relate to the new contact to that account. There are lots of options you can do with ScreenFlows. This has been a really basic overview, but I hope it was helpful, and until next time, thank you very much.